This is the How Did I Get Here podcast, and I'm your host, Ryan Poli. Coming up next is a conversation I had with Jenner Tomaska, the chef of Esmé. Jenner, thanks for sitting down with us. I have a ton of questions for you. Obviously, we're sitting inside of your beautiful restaurant that is almost a year old?
Yeah, just about 14 months.
Yeah, great. So how did you get started in the restaurant industry and why?
Oh man, that goes back. So it's the only thing I've ever done, not just restaurants, but like, the food world, whether it be highbrow, lowbrow. Dairy Queen was one of my first jobs. I started bussing and washing dishes at this place called Wild Boar in my hometown. It's really the only thing I know, which is kind of a scary thought too.
Where are you from?
Orland Park, so south suburbs of Chicago.
Right.
So if someone asks you if you're from Chicago, you got to be from Chicago.
Right.
I'm not from Chicago. But I think that the bigger question is, I don't know. I feel like a lot of us that are in the hospitality world, it's like we're all looking for a place to go, right? I think for me early on, it was like looking for somewhere to belong. I played sports and things like that, but that familia aspect of the restaurant world, the kind of, not hierarchy, but like it's like a giant family. And that, I think, for a lot of us is something that can often be missing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made me stick, stick hard.
Yeah.
It's like I like food, but I don't love food.
Right.
I like this though. This giant thing.
That's funny. I'm the same way. I don't love cooking. I love entertaining.
Sure.
I love the hospitality aspect of it. And
Sure.
I think I just fell into the kitchen, and that was my first job, was in a kitchen. I think if I would have got my first job at the front of the house, I'd be a GM somewhere. But it's also, for me, it was so different from the 9 to 5 that just like pumped into your brain every fucking day from 0 to 18. And then I started cooking, and I was like, oh, what do you mean? I start work at 2:00 in the afternoon and I can fucking wear a pair of jeans, and then after the service, they're going to sneak me into the bar and I'm going to drink vodka cranberries with everybody. Like, yeah, sign me up, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember bar backing when I was like 17, and I thought smoking cigarettes behind the bar was the fucking coolest thing ever. But yeah, it's that dynamic. Like, and I think I agree with you. Like, I think the first creativity side of cooking, I think that resonated with me was pastries, because one of the pastry chefs at a steakhouse I was working at kind of invited me into the world of cooking, and it was like a molten lava cake. Yeah. And she let me help her do that, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. But before that, it was just like I didn't get off the Blizzard station at Dairy
Right.
Queen. Man. Like, cooking is definitely a learned skill.
I remember the first time I tasted creme anglaise sauce. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know how he made it. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. And it was with a piece of chocolate cake. I don't even remember what it was. Sure. But all the little vanilla bean specks were in there, and it was like luxurious. It had this mouthfeel, and it was sweet and familiar, but like unknown at the same time. So where was your first real breakout restaurant? You got off the Dairy Queen, the Blizzard station.
I think Dairy Queen was the first like food interaction thing I had done, and it didn't last long. The guy was like, I couldn't even mop the floor the way the guy wanted, and I just remember the floors being the most disgusting thing ever. It was just like, we're polishing turds here, bud. So and then I did a bunch of like bar backing, busboying, expediting at steakhouses.
All in Orland Park.
Yeah, Orland Park area, Lombard area. Tinned fish was probably like the first cooking I did. Mike Lilberg, who's a tremendous guy, took a chance on me, and I feel like as I think about that a lot, and like, so my kind of hiring process has never been resume, and I feel like I was always embarrassed about like what my resume was, always going into thing very self-conscious about it, and I have kind of adopted that, because someone was like, that doesn't matter. Right. You're gonna bust your ass. That's it. We're good. And that's something I have taken with me. Yeah. And I still think about.
You never went to culinary school.
I did, but that doesn't mean shit, right? Like you go to like, not to knock on that, because
it wasn't for you. It wasn't for me either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go home and study. I just do the homework, and then I get the C's and the B's, and that was always it for me with school. Like, just not my thing. but it doesn't prepare you for the real world.
No.
You know, that whole dynamic. I went to college because I wanted to go to college. You know, I went to Johnson & Wales in Providence, Rhode Island, and I went there because it was a smaller Chicago, which it seemed like less intimidating. Same kind of seemed like culture there, right? Of a small city, and that's what kind of drew me there. And I spent more time drinking than I did.
Right. The college experience.
Yeah, that's what I wanted, right? And then I went out with my friends and I went to work.
Yeah. Did you find yourself like you knew you wanted? The thing that I don't understand about some of these culinary schools is it's a culinary school preparing you for the culinary industry, but you have to take all these other classes like, you know, a religion class or an elective class. It's like I thought what the fuck am I doing when I took like a semester of culinary school at College DuPage.
Yeah. And
we're standing around a chicken. 14 of us were standing around one chicken while the guy butchered it. And I'm like, I do this at work. I do 30 of these at work every day. Like, I don't understand why I'm paying for this, you know, when I could just go to work and have them pay me and I can learn more.
Yeah, I mean, that very much so sat with me. I wish I would have paid more attention to the things that you can't learn so fast on the job, like the business side of things.
Correct.
I wish there was not even that too. I wish there was I don't even know, like a trades class. Like they teach you how to like basic electrician work or like plumbing work or refrigeration work or just like how to fix shit, right?
Or how to add Freon to an air conditioner or a cooler or something, right?
Like Legos is about as much building as I can do.
Yeah. Or how to talk to investors.
Sure.
You know, what it takes to raise money.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate to have friends that don't see this as like competition, that have wanted to help me. And I think that's why we've been so successful.
Yeah.
You know, in our first year, we opened mid-pandemic or like started building mid-pandemic, and people were very apprehensive. But it was because of that support, you know, we're still open and doing great. So yeah, it's a crazy industry.
Yeah, say that again. What did you do at Tin Fish?
I cooked. I worked the fry station. You know, battering calamari. You name it. The first like revelation I think was hollandaise in a robocoup, and beurre blanc. And I remember they used to do like a hot sauce beurre blanc, and I was just like, this is so cool. Like white wine reduction, shallots, garlic, tarragon, where the hell the herbs were, and then mounding in butter. And I remember just not understanding why he could do it and I couldn't. And I was like, this is so like simple, but in the same time it's not. And I remember seeing that and then taking that to culinary school and be like, I can do this. Watch out, get out of my way. And then I just was like soupy mess of broken, you know, water. And I was like, God damn.
There's so many points in a cook's life that you see something like a stupid beurre blanc sauce that you can make in your fucking sleep right now. But at that particular moment, that's like the El Bulli of cooking. You're like, how did you do that? Like, what? Well, you gotta slowly malt it in, and it takes how many trial and errors to learn to do that. So you're working the fry station there. It was a French. It sounds like it was a French kitchen.
The guy who owned it, what's his name? Colin. I don't remember his name. There was 2 locations. The one in Oak Brook was their second location. But
there's one downtown, right? Or no?
No, there wasn't. No, I think that's it's the other fish restaurant that went super public. I actually worked there too. McCormick and Schmick.
McCormick and Schmick.
What you think about? I actually worked there for a time. So that when the chef of Tin Fish left there to go to McCormick and Schmick because this big company opens up across the street of this mom and pop shop and ultimately, you know, closes that down, right? And then they were bought out during my time at culinary school, and the quality went down quite a bit. But yeah, that was my first, you know, real, you know, responsible, like I was a part of the team type of thing. Like I had responsibility. They counted on me like every day. Like, you know, that camaraderie, like if one person doesn't show up, the world seems like it's almost ending, but even though it's not, because you knew that Joe was going to do these 6 things tonight, and that was the key to success.
Or watch the chef come and work the station.
Yeah.
And he gets it set up in like 30 minutes. It takes you 7 hours.
Yes.
And you're just like, fuck.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah, it's like, how did you do that? Well, obviously, I know how he did it. He just 86'd half of the fucking shit that's supposed to be on there. Yeah. And he's cooking 2 things right now. You know?
Yeah.
Or he changed all the dishes to fit the time frame that he had to prep, you know?
Yeah. The power to make things win or lose at the switch, I guess. Which is something I always think about too, because like your temperament when leading a team can if you want to win every night, you can, right? And if you want to lose every night, you can,
right? You're your biggest enemy.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's something I deal with, I think, quite a bit.
So what had you have McCormick and Schmidt tin fish under your belt?
Yeah.
Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. The resume is dipped in gold so far.
Yes, right.
Right.
The magic shell at Dairy Queen. So yeah, I spent some time at Johnson & Wales, and then I did an internship down in South Carolina, just to go do something. My brother played a lot of golf as a kid, and I got to tag along and ride in the golf cart. And we went to Hilton Head Island one time, and he played at Sea Pines for school, or I forget what the situation was. So when that popped up at school, I was like, oh, I can go cook on the 9th green of this golf resort. That seems interesting. And I like being hot. I like that type of temperature. So I hung out there, met some great people, and I was kind of in that place of graduating school because it was like my last semester at college, and I got offered by McCormick and Schmidt to go take like a management position in New Jersey and kind of start down that path. And I was really kind of battling like what cooking was at the time, like higher cooking. Like I felt like I was a novice in so many ways of not understanding what goes on day to day in a restaurant. And then they wanted me to be a manager of something I felt I haven't even like grasped or touched yet. And I didn't like where the restaurant was going anyway as a group. Like they were starting to bring in prefabricated product, pre-made product, like the mussels are coming in frozen and cooked at this point. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. I'm Jesus. Like, I just knew I wanted something more. So I came back here. I came back home, and I put in my resume to about 30 different places. I don't think I heard back from any of them, which was defeating to say the least. So I kept doing that. And this was also at like a time where like people don't have social media. They don't have a marketing team or a PR team or an HR team answering emails for them, right? Like all the time, like all the emails I get, and I'm just like, like I'm so like I just went to back doors.
Yeah, correct. Walk in.
Yeah. I did that at True, and I stuck around there for a couple weeks, maybe a month or so. I don't remember the timeline. They didn't want to pay me, and that was kind of my first exposure to something that was like real serious, and they knew what they were doing. Right? I was like, holy fuck.
You're almost lost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost a different language when you get to that echelon of restaurant.
Yes. And it's so uninviting.
It's intimidating.
Do you know what I mean?
It's so intimidating to walk in there. Yeah.
Yes.
And people are just moving and no one has time to talk to you.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm a person, how do I explain this? I don't like to not know how to do something. So I will go do it until I'm like really good at it. Yeah. And then come back. That's just, I don't know. It's just a weird thing about me. Maybe it's, I don't know, being insecure or whatever the dynamic of my brain is.
It's the way your brain problem solves, right? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, everyone solves problems differently, and yours sounds like it's obsessive to learn how to do this and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make the same thing. Like, my wife gives me a hard time. She's like, you made the same thing again? And I'm like, well, I didn't like it the first time. Like, it didn't work the first time. Right. Like, I'm gonna do it again until, like, I guess you don't know how to do it right until you know how to do it wrong, kind of thing. Yeah. But I just remember that place being so like, holy fuck, I have no idea where I am. There's so much, and they were just focused around one cuisine of one thing of how they thought that was right. But anyway, thankful for the eye-opening experience. And then I knocked on the back door at MK, and Eric Williams gave me a job. He told me he thought I was hot shit, and or he told me that I think I'm hot shit, and he's not going to pay me what I want to be paid, but he's going to give me $1 extra because he knows I'm commuting into the city.
Okay. I
was like, okay, thanks, chef.
Thanks, man.
They appreciate it. And that was my first job in like what I've worked like a professional kitchen where
structure.
Yeah. Like the pursuit of you know, hospitality and upholding the standard of what it can be. And that was my first, you know, real touch at it, and I was hooked. Yeah. Like I wanted all of it and everything about it all at the same time and more. Yeah. And they very much so had that mentality of why I got into the restaurant industry in the first place. They were one big family. And you could see that from day one, like the shit talking, the camaraderie, the goofing off, them coming together at one time to accomplish this goal was like a sports team. And I love that. Yeah. And Eric talks about these things all the time, and his life analogies are always Michael Jordan, whatever, you know, all sports references, right? About being a team. And I was there to compete every day. Yeah. Right. That was my thing. It's like, let's win. Yeah. You know, that's
so kind of. You show up to MK on your first day, you're shitting your pants.
You're 100%.
Yeah. Right. You get put on the. Yeah. They didn't have a blizzard station.
No, they did not. Garmager.
Yeah.
And they stuck me on Garmager for a good, almost a year, and I would just sit there. And he would tell me all the time, he's like, you're not going over there. Stop. You're not going over there. Stop. And I was just so bitter about it. We're talking about the hotline, of course. Yeah. And he's just like, you're not ready. Nope. And I did not listen to him, but I got over being upset about it. And I did the opposite of what I was doing. I was like, I'm just going to make this the best it can be, and fuck you guys. And I stopped doing that. I started doing what was best for the team and making sure this was still great, but like, I'll go get you that. Yeah, I'm gonna help you that. Like the selflessness started, I hope this show started to seep out, and I think that was I hope that was his point, because that's what came across, and that's what I understood, and that's what I got from the lesson of you know, stay over there.
You're not ready. Yeah. What were you looking at on the hotline, if you can remember? You're like, fuck, I want to do that. I mean, the first place I worked at, the guy next to me worked the broiler station. I worked like the fucking salads, like literally just making the dumbest salads with ranch on the side. But he was in charge of like cooking the lobsters and the fillets wrapped in bacon, and I was like, fuck, I want to learn how to do that. What at MK were, you know, I mean, there's a lot of a la minute cooking and basting and things like that.
I wanted to take the game-winning shot. Yeah. And that's how I looked at it. I wanted to take the game-winning shot. I was sick of assisting. Like it wasn't one particular thing, but that's what it seemed like. It seemed like these were the guys that were scoring the points. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to dribble the ball down the court, and it didn't. It didn't feel like Garmager was that.
You're sitting on the bench with your breakaway pants, never breaking away.
And that's where all the action happened, and that's where like you said, all the minute cooking was going on, and applying heat. Like you learn a lot of these, like you question yourself, I think, about cooking a lot of the ways and like what cooking means. Like I still do it now. I'm like, are we even fucking cooking? Like, is this even cooking?
Right.
And at the time, applying heat meant cooking. That's what I had defined it as. And then you continue to pursue your career, and I think you keep questioning what cooking is, and you keep redefining it and redefining it. And at that point in the beginning of my career, I was like, I'm making salads and vinaigrette. Yeah. I'm applying heat to me. I'm poaching a lobster. Like, I'm candying lemon zest. I'm the famous salted cayenne pecan almonds with the endive salad and green beans. Like I didn't see it as cooking, and it is. And that's one of the things I've learned down the line of like, just because it's pre-calculated, pre-measured, the same attention to detail should go into it, whether it's a la minute, beforehand, afterhand, 6 a.m., 3 a.m., sous vide, roasted, rested, and reheated and sliced. It's all cooking. It just, the attention to detail switches in each point of those processes, and they all should be just as important.
Right.
And at that time in my career, I didn't think they were. I was like, I'm not searing scallops. I'm not a cook.
You're not in it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that was another thing I needed to learn.
But don't you think that's the arrogance of a young cook?
100%.
Everybody has to go through that, and then you get on the hotline, you fail miserably, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, life's very weird. Like, I am where I am because of all these good and bad things that happen to you, and I think about this more so because I have a kid now, and not just run a team, but like, I'm successful because of me, or am I successful because of a culmination of these life lessons and hardships and victories that have gotten me to where I want to go? And like, if someone wasn't a piece of shit to me, like, would I be where I am today? So am I supposed to be thankful to them, resentful, accept it? Like, it's just a whirlwind of things that I think about now, opposed to just writing it off and just being like bitter. Yeah. Right. I am where I am today. One of the reasons I should say is because I am extremely hardworking. Like, I have somehow the ability to put my head down and run, and don't stop running until we win. And that's gotten me through a lot in my career, and has got me through promotions and to places where I, am thankful to be today. I don't know if that's the best way. And I think about this late, right? Because I have a kid, and there's that whole dynamic of raising a person, right? It's just a weird thing to think about, and that arrogance you talk about is definitely something that I most certainly it wasn't necessarily arrogance. I think it was like I was angry about something, and I cooked with anger. Like, I cooked mad all the time. It was weird.
Yeah.
And that was like, again, very, very much so sports-like, right? We're gonna go out there and we're gonna fucking win, and we're not gonna win by 20. We're gonna win by all the
technical
points.
fault.
Yeah, all the points, right?
Right.
And it's not so much like that anymore. But I think a lot of us go through that, and I don't necessarily think it's the best way, and I'm trying to find the right way to teach a group of people to win, and I guess in a more positive and constructive manner. I don't have that answer
Yeah.
yet.
It's funny you say anger. I used to get so mad when I was a super young cook. I used to get so mad at the expediter for calling out things that were on my station. And I'd go, "You're doing this on purpose." And it was just like, you have the two most popular dishes on your station.
Yes.
Yes. So when did you get to the hotline?
Like about 8 months in, I worked entremet, and I fucking crushed.
Yeah.
Oh, I crushed.
It's a great feeling, right?
Oh, it's such a good feeling. I crushed. And the way that it was organized there, because they had a Dega menu, and then they had just like an a la carte menu.
A Dega station's a tasting menu.
Tasting menu. That's what all the old fogies call it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And I walked in MK. I didn't know what the fucking Dega was.
No, 100%.
You know what I mean? That's how.
I didn't even know tasting menus existed. I didn't even know you were eating multiple things in one meal. It was like, you go, maybe you get an appetizer, entree, and you're out. You know?
Yeah. Funny story, not about me, but my wife. So they would give everyone an amuse my wife also worked at MK for a long period of time. That's how we met. That's why we're married. So she started there as a hostess, chicken coats, and then she worked the front door, and her friend invited her in. I think this was right before she started working, and they gave gave everybody a muse every night, right? So it was either a soup, and the Garmage made it, right? It was either soup or just like a piece of hamachi or a one bite or something. It changed maybe every other day. And she thought, because the way the waiter described it was like, oh, this is an amuse, the chef makes this special for everyone that comes in every day. She thought that the chef made this special for her.
Everybody thinks that.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, like not everyone got this. She got this. And I thought that was so special. I was like,
that's sweet.
Yeah. But yeah, the hotline. So entremet, the way it was expedited, Eric was the expediter there, and usually maybe one of the other sous chefs or CDC at the time, but they would just talk to you all night. They wouldn't give you a ticket. So you would cook to them talking to you. And I feel like that's something that like molded me.
Yeah. Like they'd call the orders and you'd have to pull out and organize your board with your proteins, and that's what you were cooking.
It was like the majority of the things were order fire, right? So because it wasn't entremet was either cooking the first or second course, and then it was supporting some of the sides or vegetables or whatever for fish and meat, which I was smushed into in between, right? And then I did have some third and fourth courses depending on if it was scallops or I don't know, foie, some other things. But you were just like the point guard. You were running down the court every day, leading the team, and something about that I just fucking loved.
But like, the last thing you want is the protein guy waiting for you because you forgot the veg. Like, fuck off, man. You know?
Yeah. It was such a fun place to work at. I think about it a lot. Just the dance, and I don't like people talk about it, but like the dance of working with someone that is on your wavelength and on your level. There's something that it just feels good. Like handing them something, it's like running a play in fucking basketball. Yeah. Like it just seamless, smooth. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it needs to be forced, and it's usually not for the best. But like something about that moment of cooking for me is so nostalgic. Like
it's the friendships that you build when you go to war. Like you're basically going to war every night, and it's the stress, and it's the relying on the guy next to you, and they come through, and those friendships. Still to this day, I romanticize about people that I worked with. Like, fuck, he was such a great partner. Yeah, he was such a great guy to work next to. You know, we every service we destroyed it. You know?
Yeah. Elliot Hunt, he has a restaurant down south called Atlas. He taught me how to cook fish. Yeah. I was entremet, and then he trained me how to cook fish. And then on Fridays and Saturdays, we needed a second entremet. My God, they called it swinger. I forget how they called it. That would cook strictly sides and sauces for fish in the grill station. And I got planted there after I trained someone on entremet, because it was such a like rough station, and that we used to fuck around. We said Batman and Robin, like that was the two of us, right? They called him Flacco because he was skinny, or Tripa guts, right? Yeah, man, like those relationships, those things last forever. And then on the other side of me was Ben Ruiz. I don't know if you know him. He floated around in Chicago now. He's in Southern Illinois doing a thing. But just those relationships were really special and really fun. Again, it's just the dance, like the back and forth movements of rolling around somebody and like understanding their movements and timing, and it's just really fucking cool. And then we go to the bar afterwards and bitch about work all day long.
Yeah, totally, right. Yeah, standard. How much was Michael Cornick involved back then?
Not a tremendous amount.
By this time, he had all the other restaurants
he had 9. Yeah. I think there was. I don't know if MK North was open and closed by the time I jumped on. He had a couple places in Vegas. Yeah. He wasn't actively working the restaurant, but I knew him, and he would come in and do the events, and he'd make the weekly managers meeting and things like that. By no means did he know my name at the time. But funny story, we were at Whole Foods doing I don't know what the event was for, and at the time I didn't even know half the chefs were there. The only chef I really knew was Paul Kahn, and it was on the second level of Whole Foods, and like on a mezzanine. And I'm there with just Michael, and we're setting up the station. I don't even know what we were cooking, but I was setting up the the gas burners, and it wasn't working. And I kept like jamming the gas propane tank into the thing. And I'm like, well, this isn't fucking working. Like, this is the first time I'm working with this guy. Get your shit together. You got to know what you're doing. Fuck. And I'm jamming. It's not working. And I finally get it on. And dude, I'm not kidding you, the fucking table lights up.
No way.
And his back is to me, and Paul Kahn's facing me. And he looks at me, and I look at him. And I was like, oh my God, please don't tell him. And I'm just like trying to.
So what happened? Like the gas kept coming out of the.
Yeah. The gas, the sterno like blew out, or like the flame blew out the front of the thing.
Yeah.
And the table they had those shitty plastic like tablecloths.
Yep.
And the thing just went like, I'm gonna light on fire. And it was a mess. Luckily nothing bad happened, and I put it out relatively quickly. But I just remember that was my big. My first experience with them. And then second funny story, we were at the MCA doing an event, and I'm an idiot, and maybe I'm not at the same time, but we have this big production line of plating food, and Michael's putting the final touches on the plate, and he's sprinkling parsley on the plate, and I'm following him, and I'm wiping the rims of the plate, and after like 15, I'm like, oh, he's doing this on purpose. Like,
that's fucking crazy.
I'm like, parsley's not the thing anymore, chef. Like, we're it's 2005. No more parsley. Right. But I didn't grasp that he was doing that on purpose, and I was like, oh.
That's amazing. So you finished up at MK. What happened next?
So I started staging around town. MK never got the dues I thought it was supposed to get.
I agree. It was a pinnacle restaurant in Chicago.
Yeah. I think that not the accolade side of things, but again, the questioning of higher pursuit of cooking. Like I spent a small amount of time at Shrew and saw like there was more, right? There's more out there, and I'm starting to master what this space is. And was there more for me to learn? 100%, right? 100%. And I started asking Eric, like, hey, I think I'm gonna go somewhere else. Like, what? And I didn't say this the right way. I told them they didn't have anything out like left to offer me, and I didn't say. Maybe I said it so bluntly, and
I'm done here.
I didn't say it like that. I wanted to let him know, like, hey, like, and here's this grown man who is a professional and accomplished things and runs a business and runs a restaurant, runs a team. And what he should have told me was go fuck myself.
Right.
But he didn't. And I'm very grateful for that. And rather than that, he pushed me out the door. He found another place for me to continue to grow and learn, whether he thought I was ready or not, whether he thought my statements about there not being anything here for me or whatever that exchange was. He didn't take it personal, which most people would, which I probably have in my career, which I try not to do. One of the big lessons for me, I try to help people like move. So Dave Barron, who was the chef at Alinea, and now the chef at Next, spent time at MK as well. Ironically, he was at Shrew before Alinea, and Eric had a good relationship with Dave, and made a phone call, and that's where I went next. My roommate at the time was on the opening team at Next, so I already had interest. I didn't know there was this relationship between him and Dave, like to the point of like friendship, because Dave used to come in all the time and sit at the bar and eat Eric's food, and they talk and blah blah blah. But I didn't realize they were like that close with my roommate Brent working at Next, and that was it. I didn't necessarily understand what I was getting into.
It's a huge leap.
Yes, I didn't even understand like the.
Now you went to Next. You didn't go to Alinea.
No, I staged at Alinea.
But you never worked there.
No, I staged there for 2 days, and then I staged at Next for 2 days. They both offered me the job. I went to Next. There was something about Dave that I gravitated to. Maybe because he worked at MK, excuse me. Maybe because he had that same familia, friendly openness to him. Whereas Alinea most certainly did not. That was I remember not drinking water for 17 hours because I didn't know I could.
Yeah, right.
Do you know? I remember because I living out in the city at the time? Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. I remember leaving there, and this was, I think, before fucking GPS. I remember trying to find a 7-Eleven and just walking into 7-Eleven, grabbing a fucking gallon of water and just being like, oh. Because I had you know what I mean? It was that intimidating.
I got a kidney stone at the French Laundry for the same reason.
There you go.
It was, first of all, it's 110 degrees. We're working, and I was not drinking water because I didn't have time. And it was probably a couple months into when I was working there, but I was they're you need to drink more fucking water. And I was okay.
You just don't. Sometimes you don't have time.
Yeah.
Shit. So I started at Next, and that was a huge change. I didn't understand I was reading cookbooks. I was my friend was pushing me towards that. But it was never I was never so curious. I mean, I am now, but I wasn't curious until I started talking to Dave about food, about the world of cooking. I was more so just doing the next thing that I thought I was supposed to do, taking the next step. I didn't even understand who Grand Rapids was when I started working there. I just remembered Brent telling me, you should be thankful that you have this job.
Brent Dawson?
Brent Dawson.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
He was your roommate.
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
Oh yeah. He's a quite the character. We go way back.
Yeah.
He just got married.
Yeah. Is he in Texas?
I believe so.
Yeah.
That's where he's from. I remember him being people are fighting to work here, and and this was still pre-social media types of times. And I remember how hard it was to get a job at MK, let alone this guy telling me it's impossible to be on the opening team at Next, and it was just a whole nother beast. I said, I had no idea what Grand Rapids was, or French. I mean, I knew what the French Laundry was, but I didn't know anything, right?
And you're walking from MK, which is very French-based cooking.
Yes.
Very a la minute cooking.
Yes.
Saute pans. You can understand it.
Yes.
Here's your mise en place. To walking into Next, which is very scientific, you would say.
I felt like Dave had the right balance of both. And I think he appreciated that with me. And because Next changed so often, there was a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
We did the El Bulli menu early on. Before that, it was
with a French menu.
Yeah, it was a French menu.
Fantastic.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I started at the end of that, or at the end of Thailand. So I missed that.
Yeah. The Hunt menu, I think, was I ate a lot of those menus because
Yeah.
Dave kept inviting me in.
Yeah.
I think the Hunt menu was that was the first time I really saw Dave's cooking. I
Sure.
feel like that was all Dave
Sure.
with a couple little influences here, but it was super fucking delicious.
To be honest with you, dude, he did everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that space was his. Grant would come in and do the things, but Dave, I don't think Dave understood what Dave's cooking was. He was trying to find that.
Figure it out, yeah.
And I felt the same way at the end of it. It's you're either cooking someone else's food or
it's imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
It's especially cooking someone else's food. You're just a cover band.
For sure.
So how can you find your own style
for sure
with that? Yeah.
And we can talk about that later because it's a good topic. Because I still feel like that sometimes here. But I felt like it fed my ADD the change.
Sure.
Right?
And it's exciting enough, right?
You learned something new. It kept getting you out of your comfort zone of every 3 months. You're on a different station. You were working with a different protein or a different technique or something.
Or just when you learned the menu, just when you got it down, changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was exhilarating, thrilling. It was a high. it was really special. That place was really fucking cool. And Dave is probably one of the most talented people I know.
Just a fantastic cook.
Yeah.
Fantastic fucking cook.
I learned how to be creative because of that guy. I was his sounding board at the end of that time, right? So Rene DeLeon was the opening sous chef with him. He had front of house, back house experience at Alinea, expediting, to have that. Like, he was a very integral part of like the functionality of Next. And when he was making his exit, it was me, Matt Kim, and Randall, who was here today, that were promoted. And Rene picked me to be like, hey, this is one of you has to do this, and it's gonna be you. And he like instilled the front of house aspect into me, and we'll go back to talking about Dave too. But I am forever indebted because of that. Because at the time, I just remember being like, you know, like to the expert, like, fuck you.
Yeah, the front of house is like, fuck off. You know, you guys are on your own, right?
Like just being like pissed about the dynamic of like, dude, you don't know what I'm doing right now. Like, and he
stop calling the items on my station.
Sebastian is a sous chef here. He's like working next to you. So funny. You like, because we have a bar and it's a la carte, and it intervenes in the middle of the tasting menu. And he's like, when you just say like, stop ordering the food in.
Yeah, right.
Stop calling porks. And he's like, it just makes me laugh. But it really opened my eyes to how to run a restaurant, because he expedited there. He was the liaison between the front of house and back of house.
Important job.
And he spoke both languages.
Both languages, yes.
And he was friends with both. He brought them together rather than to fight.
I mean, it could easily go the other way if you got the wrong person at that job.
Yeah. And because what Next was, it was so important. Like, so important. We were doing 100 covers a day with 15 to 20 courses.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's a lot of food.
Yeah. And it wasn't just like courses. Like there's shit on the table before you get
elaborate,
there.
yes.
Like there's like service pieces and multiple moving things and sequence and flow.
Yeah.
And he just
time limits on when you should eat this and when you shouldn't.
And he just opened that whole door for me. And how things are run, and just the importance of all these things. I remember he brought me onto the dining room. He's like, this is how you put food on the table. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, watch me and listen. This is how you put food on the table. And I was like, holy fuck, there's a whole nother ballgame that I'm not even playing yet.
Yeah. Not only are you putting food on the table, you're looking at that wine glass they need water.
Yeah.
They don't have the right silverware.
Yeah.
You know, they might need something else, like anticipating the guest needs.
Yeah. And then telling the story too. Because it wasn't just the food at Next.
It was.
There was always so much more. Dave always had so much more to say than the food. And then the servers were responsible for that, to narrate the story of what was going on and how it was going on.
Very important, especially at that place.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, because if it's not, it's just like a lot of the times you're competing with nostalgia. You know, when we do these cuisines, and someone would come in and be like, we'll just keep it basic so everyone can understand. But like, if you're doing an Italian menu and you're making fucking meatballs, everyone's gonna come in and be like, well, my grandma's meatballs are way better than these. Right. So if there's no like dialogue that goes along with that, or story, or way, like with purpose and intent, and which I talk about here at Esmé a lot, it's everything has to be like with intent. Set an expectation, under promise, and we'll fucking over deliver.
Yeah. It's the best spot to be in.
Yeah.
Always be the underdog.
I say that all the time to the front of house staff. Like let them know what's going on, and then I guarantee you we will surpass that.
Yeah.
Like, someone walked in, didn't let us know they have a dietary restriction. Tell them that you don't know if chef can accommodate you tonight. Like, you know, we have these procedures in place where we find this information out before you get here. Did we miss that? Did you miss that?
Right.
And we're gonna obviously say it in a little nicer than that.
Right.
But then when we come back and we tell them, yeah, we can accommodate a vegetarian tonight, they're gonna be like, oh, these guys are fucking awesome.
Totally.
And then if one of the courses that we weren't prepared for isn't a fucking home run because it's a vegetarian, then they're not going to be so pissed off when they spend $200 to be like, I got a piece of seared squash.
Right.
Well, yeah, you're a vegetarian.
Right. At the steakhouse menu.
Yeah. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, that's just so important. So Renee, if you ever listen to this, I hope you're doing well in Alaska.
Is that where he's at now?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, quite the adventure, right? But yeah.
Well, last time I heard he was in Dubai.
He was, and then I don't know.
Is he still with Michael Mina?
I don't know. He's not.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's with like a luxury hotel up there or something, but they were like putting people out on like glaciers or something, and you get to fucking have a two-top on a glacier.
Fuck, man.
I was like, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Like helicopter, like they bring you in a helicopter to a fucking floating glacier, and you have lunch there. I'm like, that's wild.
Until a polar bear crawls up and eats you.
But Dave was very like so talented. And to like at the end of it, after Renee left, I thought I was his soundboard, and I got to ask him the world, right? And opened up my eyes to the world of cooking.
What an encyclopedia of information to sift through.
Dude,
yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, Dave's a smart guy.
Insane. Like, and I think he's smart on things I don't even think he was like that passionate about. Yeah. Right? Like
just know stuff.
The encyclopedia of like hydrocolloids. I forget what, like it's like the big
Oh, dude, I love talking to him about that.
Dude,
man. Yeah.
And like he knows so fucking much. And I don't even think he likes it.
No. He told me he doesn't like it, but he knows everything about it.
I remember like I don't want to tell his story, but like he I think about this a lot. He like reverse engineered chocolate pudding. And I think about it a lot because he taught me how to like creatively think on how things and why things are made. And if you think about it that way, if you reverse engineer like techniques in cooking, you can apply those to a lot of different things, and you can come up with creatively with a lot of new, not only new things, but I mean like creatively a new way to do something, right? And he really instilled that in me. And I remember like doing the same thing, and he's like, yeah, Jenner, open up the Mugar Eats book and go to page 255.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for 10 years. And then I have another idea, and he's like, yeah, go open up the Al-Poli book and go to this page, and this is what it is. And while defeating that may be, it was also enlightening to know that I was thinking about food the way others have been successful.
Well, there were new ideas to you, though.
Correct.
So that you arrived at the same point as Al-Poli and Mugar Eats did, you know?
Yeah. But it was very humbling, but also exciting because there was so much more going on in cooking. And I that was so, it was such a cool time to be learning. And like, yeah, the guy creatively did cool things, and he had firsthand experience with Alinea almost from day one to where they got to being the chef, to being 16 or whatever the fuck it was in the world. And to hear all of those life stories and life lessons, and it just opened up the horizon to not knowing about Grand Achatz and who that was, to understanding that there's these places all over the world that do this at this level in different cuisine. Yeah. And it was very cool. So very, very, very thankful for that time.
What do you think you learned at MK that set you up for next? Because they're very different restaurants.
I got a watch. Eric bought everyone these stupid ass, I don't even know, what are the cheap black watches?
Swatch.
Yeah. It was like a Swatch, or it was like a $10 watch. And to time manage will make or break you as a cook, and as a chef, and as a professional. And I was really, really good at that too. I remember Dave telling me, he was like, yeah, there was a time where, I was making the fucking frozen gorgonzola spheres from the Al-Poli.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, what a fucking nightmare. It's always funny when you do the most ridiculous shit with no equipment. Like, let's freeze 40 balloons of cheese So how much room, like square footage, you think 40 balloons of cheese need?
A lot.
Not one stand-up refrigerator that already has food in it, that you shared with the aviary, and that the guy who scooped ice cream for the office would go into all the time.
All the time, yeah.
And
so the temperature was never right.
Not a refrigerator or a freezer that needs to defrost. So we end up dividing halfway through the El Bulli menu because it was longer than most of the menus. It was 4 months rather than 3, and so I worked the first 2 months of that station, and then I moved on to a different station. And the girl who replaced me, or that we switched with, Alice, I think she burned her hands in nitrogen because you had to basically make Maytag blue cheese puree, put a touch of xanthan in it just to stabilize it, like the thickness of it, and so the mouthfeel was okay. And then you'd put in a squeeze bottle, take an ISI, just charge it with soda chargers because they're cheaper, and use it as basically a helium tank to blow up the balloon. Yeah. So you were just using charging an ISI just to blow up a balloon, right? We should maybe buy a helium tank.
Yeah. Right.
And then you squirt blue cheese in it. Put the squeeze bottle back on the scale to make sure that that there was 87 grams of blue cheese in it, because that's the number that it was supposed to be every time, 87. And then you tie a knot. You had to tie the knot in a very specific way that it would make the balloon round and not oblong.
Sure, right.
Which I'm sure
everybody knows how to do.
My many years of making balloon animals have prepared me for.
It was good that you were a clown the year before.
Roll it in nitrogen. You put it on a deli. You rolled another one in nitrogen. You put it on a deli. You rolled another one on nitrogen. And then you did the whole process again with those 3 balloons. Any more balloons, it wouldn't freeze right. Any less balloons, it wouldn't freeze right. And then you put it in the freezer for 20 minutes, no less. You pull it out, do the process again, and then freeze them until you need them. And
sounds awesome.
There was no fucking manual to this shit, right? There was no manual to this. There was no
wasn't El Bulli helping you with this a little bit or no?
Yeah, but like they like when El Bulli was designed, whether people know this or not, like they were open for 6 months and then they were closed for 6 months. Yeah. And you know what they did for 6 months?
Research and development.
Yeah. Like no other restaurant can do that. And no one can if you open up a cookbook from any of these restaurants, they don't work.
Yeah, none of them do. They're just pretty pictures.
Yeah. And it's not just the recipes don't work. It's like the nuance of what I just talked about and the firsthand experience of like trial and error. And that doesn't sound pretty. Yeah. That doesn't sound romantic. But yeah, like that's how a lot of that.
Was that an all-day process? I mean, you had to make 100 of those a day?
I started at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
We'd leave at 2. It was a thing where I knew I could get like 25 of them done, and then I could do another 10 in the first hour of service because it was the last course. But I also got good at doing them. Like I figured out how to do them to order, where like you could skip a lot of the process of like letting it temper.
And freeze.
Because the nitrogen would get it so cold that they would crack. Yeah. Because it was hollow, right? It was just a hollow thing. And I remember I got sent home because I ran out. Like it was like in the first week. But do them to order, you would only get like 1 out of 3. Like they would explode. They wouldn't explode. They would implode. So the thing would get so cold that they would dent.
It would collapse.
And then of course if it wasn't a perfectly round ball, we don't use it. But what a fucking wild time. Yeah. The other course I had that's very iconic from that place was the carrot air. They even had the oblong. Yeah, it was either in the New York Times or that's like Time Out magazine. It was like,
yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know, the carrot foam was like with coconut and curry, and it was like carrot bubbles pouring out the front of this very like beautiful, I don't even know what you would call it, of a shoe-shaped glass. Yeah,
glass. Yeah, it was like a conch shell almost.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. I think they either sent them to Next because we were working alongside with them, or we bought them and we own them, and they didn't make them anymore. We had theirs. The restaurant it was either closing down or just closed down, and then we also had their olive spoons as well that were theirs. But I had that carrot course, and like, so there's a stairwell behind. Oh man, Randall, we should talk to him about this too, because he was my station partner. We had a 22 quart of carrot juice. You know how long it takes to juice 22 quarts of carrot?
Long.
Yeah. I did that every day. So whatever's the natural protein that's in carrot allows it to
bubble.
Yeah. So rather
Froth,
than, I think, so they figured this out. So that was like the cool thing. So you don't have to add soy
Maybe
lecithin.
the carotene, no? Or who the fuck knows? Yeah.
Ask Dave.
Yeah.
So rather than having to add soy lecithin to something to encapsulate the bubbles, or capture the bubbles, or rearrange or whatever the protein, or however the fuck it works, carrot naturally has this, so it holds a foam. That was the big deal. But I had a 22 quart of carrot juice with a fucking stick blender, like the thing you puree giant vats of soup with, on my shoulder, in a stairwell, on one knee, and you would have to balance the bottom of the blender with one knee. The 22 quart you would put it in a milk crate upside down, so the 22 quart would be on an angle, and then a deli tray with delis, and then a slotted spoon, and you would just scoop fucking carrot bubbles, and then Randall would pop his head outside the door and be like, "Hey, do you have enough carrot?"
Yeah.
And I'll be like, "Oh, what a mess." But all well worth it. I don't think El Bulli was doing 100 covers a night.
Were they? No, I don't think so.
No,
definitely
we
not.
definitely were.
Definitely not. So you leave Next, and you decide you want to open your own place.
Yeah.
What's that conversation in your head like? It's just time. It's time.
Yeah, I was questioning a lot of, again, like re-questioning what cooking was, re-questioning what it
as you're standing on a stairwell. Like, is this cooking?
Yeah. I loved going through the ranks at Next was great, and then to be able to lead that team and develop menus on my own and constantly change.
Yeah. So you took over when Dave left.
Yeah. That was very cool. But just like MK, I started asking myself, what cooking is, what does it mean to be a chef, what does it mean to be a business owner, how is my decision making being impacted by not being the business owner, not being an owner, not having any not consequences, but like how would that change my attitude? Like, I wanted more, right? Like, bottom line, I wanted more. And it's not that I was pursuing like glory, but I wanted to make the decision. I didn't want to make someone else's decisions.
Right. Or make decisions for someone else's place.
Yeah. And ultimately I wasn't making the decisions, right? I was doing what I thought they wanted. And I don't think that's what I wanted. And that's why I left. And that's why I wanted to open this place, because I wanted to continue learning, growing, and then do it for me and the reasons that I deemed purposeful. The things that I found value at MK, I wanted to revisit those things and bring that to life for my own, right? For my own like peace of mind, my own pursuit of determining what a chef is, right? Or whatever. And that's kind of what started this whole thing, right? It wasn't to pursue fine dining, that's for sure. Like, I don't know if anything about me has come across in this whole process of talking to you, but like, it's not like I have ADD, so like let's keep going.
Yeah.
But like, it's not. If it wasn't fine dining, I'll go cook at a bistro or burgers,
right?
And I'm still gonna like put the same amount of energy and effort and passion into it, right? It's the exchange of, I made something, I get to give it to you, I get to get gratification from seeing you accept it. That's what drives me.
Right.
Making tables, making pottery, I don't know, laying concrete, doing audio, it's not the food that's driving me. It's the thought of crafting.
Yeah. So let's pivot here for just 1 second, then we'll get back to that. Is if you didn't get into the restaurant industry, where do you think you'd be?
I don't know. I don't think about that often because it's scary to think about. I was either going to go into the Navy because I thought being a pilot was fun. Yeah, I know no dick about it, right? I just remember my neighbor's dad was super into fucking airplanes and things, and I didn't know anything about it besides having a couple books, and I'm like, this is fucking cool, but never really really thought about it. It was just gonna be I don't have anything else to do. What am I gonna do? Right. I don't know what my purpose is, which is I feel like most kids go through, right? When you're in high school or college.
It's a lot to put something on a 17, 18-year-old to be you need to go to college and you need to choose what you're going to do for the rest of your life now. And then it's a scary thing of realizing that you don't want to do that, but you're already halfway through college and you don't want to change because you don't want to upset anybody. And then you get out of college with this degree that you don't even give a fuck about.
And you got to pay $100,000.
And you got to pay all this fucking money. And not even that, the degree isn't even getting you to where you're supposed to be. And now you're waiting tables anyway.
I remember being promoted to sous chef, and I don't know what the salary was, but it was we'll make up a number. We'll say $50,000. I remember looking at that first check and being I never thought I was going to make $50,000.
Yeah.
I was this is fucking crazy.
Right.
And now every time that happens, I'm I never thought I was going to make this much money. This is fucking crazy. It's just I never I don't know. I never thought keep my mind on those types of scenarios, which is maybe bad or good. I don't know, but yeah, I didn't know what I had purpose, right? I just knew I really enjoyed this act of this exchange, right? This idea of being on a team and we're all collectively accomplishing something together. It just felt like purpose. So to know what I was going to do outside of this, I don't know. Do you know what you would do?
No, I don't. I was really into music.
Sure.
I was in a band. I used to play bass guitar in a shitty garage band.
Okay.
I just started playing it. If I wasn't cooking, maybe something with music. But I was so naive when I was in high school. I didn't know that there were all these facets to the music industry. You could go be a producer. I just thought the music industry is you're in a band. There's all these other things you could have done. So would I have followed that? I don't know. I always ask myself, did I choose cooking or did cooking choose me?
Sure.
I fell into this industry when I needed a friend. I was really having a hard time when all my friends were going to college and I didn't.
Yeah.
And I was flung into this adult environment where my friends were 35-year-olds and I was 18. And it was, confusing. It was confusing at first, and all of a sudden I really enjoyed waking up at noon and 1 o'clock and then going to work at 2 and coming home late. I enjoyed those hours because I didn't know those hours existed.
Yeah.
So I think if it wasn't cooking, it definitely would have been something with my hands, whether it's a mechanic or, working on a radio or building something. But also, like you, I can't say. I don't know where life would have taken me. I don't know. I guess it's a hard question. I'm sorry I asked.
No, I'm gonna try not to think about it.
Yeah. So you're writing a business plan now.
Yeah.
How did this whole concept for all of this come about?
So we wrote multiple. We wrote multiple concepts.
Did you know you wanted to do something in the fine dining world, or did you want to do something more casual?
Yeah, I did. And it wasn't because I wanted to pursue higher cooking anymore.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't because of that. It was because I knew the business model better than I knew the a la carte model.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not I knew it better, it's that I thought I could accomplish and tackle this better.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, because being involved in like the planning at Next, and I knew that it would be easier to be more successful if I went this route. And I knew I could raise money in this route. I knew that there was people that would support me in this endeavor.
But also, you had a name in fine dining, also.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You know, it wasn't the tweezers that has kept me pushed towards Esmé, because when the next thing we do is going to be the place where I live at. Like we're going to open a bistro, and it's going to be like MK food, but in a more modern place, and I'm going to cook fish, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm working very hard to go back to.
Yeah.
And I'm really good at that, right? And I like that. And it wasn't this fucking fancies thing, this art thing. Those are awesome. And I'm not trying to sell that short, because please come eat here. But I'm just speaking truthfully, because like I've gotten good at this too, right? This is very fun. This is another high of like, oh, it's new, it's entertaining, it's fun, like physically for me, right? But like I like cooking too, and we try to find a good medium here of a la minute, whether it's searing a piece of fish or roasting a whole something that's in crepinet or whatever it is, right? Yeah. Not everything's coming out of the bath here. We're not making sauces to order per se sometimes, but sometimes we are. We try to find a good balance of like what I think I've defined cooking at in my career. But we didn't know that this was going to be this until we found this space. We wrote a couple different plans of like conceptual like ideas. I wanted to do something like a French Laundry, but like a more dated French Laundry. There's something about that era that is very romantic for me. Like
it's an exciting time in America when that book came out. You know?
And but if you go back, like but like that type of cuisine, but like in the 30s, like when the Ritz.
Yes.
Right.
Paul Bocuse.
Yeah. Like those books have always been a very big like damn, that's badass. Yeah. And people like
it's the epitome of luxury.
Right?
Yeah.
But some people are like, that's tacky, like there's a fucking like a trout that's poached in some sort of acidic fumet or something, and then it's like has an aspic sitting in it. And it's like a fucking whole fish with aspic, like, and it's presented in a way, and there's something about that most people are like, that's fucking tacky, lame. But I there's something about like
you don't understand the history of it.
Yeah, there's like it's just such like an era of like put on a suit and tie. Even maybe that doesn't work now, but that idea is cool for me. Yeah. So to remodernize that somehow is something we wanted to do. Like the Ritz at London, like, have you seen their dining room? It's bananas, right? Right.
The chandeliers, the carpet,
over the top, very like early hotel, like, because that's where all the chefs cooked in hotels back then, right? Yes. Like when Bocuse was, and then so on and so forth.
The tableside cooking, the tuxedos,
so cool. And I remember opening these books and looking at that, and it was something I wanted to do. And then we ventured down the bistro in a more casual concept, and then when we saw the space, I knew it came out a whole different way. My wife's a big back end on all of this and how this has all played out. She's very creative when it comes to writing narrative and telling the story and conceptualizing what this is. This is very much so because of her. And we knew we wanted to, whatever we did, we knew we wanted to find a way to give back, to push forward. And I don't mean that on the broad sense of like Jenner's fixing the world, because I'm not, right? But you only get so far as a chef, and there seems to be like this magical roof that everyone hits their head on, and not many are able to peek their head over the top of it. And because I feel like I have been given that opportunity, or was in the process of doing this, I want to make sure that I do that for someone else, because someone's done it for me, right? And I can name some names, and I'm just thankful for that, right? And that's the core of this, right? How can we create a platform for people to spotlight people, to showcase people, and let them tell whatever they got to tell, and push them forward onto the world, because that's fucking cool.
Is that how the art came into this?
Yes.
The thing that when we had dinner here the other day, the thing that I was most, I wouldn't say impressed, the whole meal was impressive, but I didn't know how art focused it was.
Yeah.
And it's such an amazing, cool idea to come to the table and not say, though this turnip is from this farm and this farmer raises, it's like this serving piece is made from this artist, and you rotate the artist. So tell us how all of that came about and what you're doing.
Yeah. So quarterly, we have a tasting menu on one side and there's an a la carte on the other. The tasting menu rotates quarterly, just like Next. I came to terms with you have to take the good with the bad from wherever you come from, and you can't write everything off you did because you want to get out of the shadow, right? I didn't want to be under the shadow of Next. Like, they change their menu quarterly. They reinvent the cuisine, blah blah blah.
Because then it's just a cut and paste.
Yeah, that's a cut and paste, and that's even though I loved it, and at the end of it felt like I had ownership of it because I was designing and doing all the menus. I knew I couldn't, and I didn't want to just do that again, right? So we did it in a different way because it's fucking smart. Because it brings the same guests in multiple times a year.
Right. Yeah.
We sell season tickets. It feeds our creative need. We get to explore cuisine. We get to explore food. We get to R&D things that you don't normally get to R&D, and so on and so forth. So we're not serving the same thing for the whole year, right? Like, you go to a tasting menu and it's the same thing all year round. Yeah. And then they'll switch a course out, and then it's not fava beans, so we'll go to peas, and then it's not peas because it's going into winter. So we'll find some nice heirloom bean. You're
constantly changing the vegetables for the season until you've just changed it so much it becomes a new dish.
Correct.
Yeah.
While I respect that and I understand that, that's not what I wanted to do in this type of environment. That's not what this space is meant to be. And the art side of it, so we showcase a new artist quarterly. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's multiple, sometimes it's thematic, sometimes it's not. We try to find a good balance of like finding what Esmé's voice is as far as food goes. And then sometimes we do like this giant collaboration between the food and the art. So our first go at it, we obviously just open up with what we kind of just call our Esmé menu. We had an artist showcase, then we're inspired by things that I've found in cuisine. I'm trying to find my voice in what I think cuisine is, right? It's always very heavily influenced by French food, but in a more modern way, in a more, I think, approachable manner. And then there's, for me, the starting point has always been with others. And we can talk about it, like we said, imposter syndrome. I don't like talking about myself. I don't like receiving compliments. I don't like defining what my food is, who I am, and why my food is. I have a hard time doing it. Maybe because I can't answer those things.
Do you think it's never good enough for you?
100%.
I always say, well, this is the best meal I ever had. I'm like, obviously you're not fucking getting out. Like, this is the worst night this restaurant's ever had in our life.
Hey, listen, asshole, you ate here the other night. So.
Yeah, right. No, I'm saying me.
I'm fucking with you.
Yeah. I always say also there's this magical thing that happens from when the dish leaves the kitchen and walks through the door of the kitchen to the dining room. This magical thing happens where all the imperfections that we see, all of the little things we forgot or how it could be better, how the details, those get all washed away and the guest is just enjoying. It's so under our lights in the kitchen, we see all the imperfections. We're so hard on ourselves that we can't take a compliment. We can't accept this to be good. And the guests are like, this is the fucking best thing I've ever eaten in my life,
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I'm not the pasta guy. I'm not the taco guy. I'm not, I don't like Italian food. I don't like to pigeonhole myself in the corner. And maybe that's why you didn't know we are so tied to the arts. Because I don't know if we've necessarily defined that
I don't think so. At least the things that I've seen.
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention to it, but
no, I feel like a lot of people we haven't done we haven't found the right voice to express what this is yet. But our first real menu with collaboration was with Paul Octavius. He's a local photographer here in town. He was like one of the first like real like photographer, like photo-driven artists on Instagram. He was like one of the first people on Instagram. And, he shoots a gamut of different styles of the world, and some of it's very serious, some of it's not. And he loves food, and I've known him forever. He shot some food at Next when I was there for me. He just saw my shit and he was like, "Hey, I appreciate what you're doing. Can I come in and can I take food?" And we had a really fun creative like session where we did things together like a la minute. It wasn't even food anymore. It was just he was creating something. So we hung 12 of his pieces or 15 of his pieces on the wall, and each course coincided with him. Like the food was inspired by him. And some of it was very literal, or it's like, you look at this is what this looks like. You look at this is what this feels like. Or not so literal, where there's a story or emotion or feeling that. But
did you know that you wanted to do that, or did that just kind of fall in? We're like, hey, we got this guy, we should do something together, some sort of collab, and you came up with the idea?
No, I knew that's what we wanted to do. I knew we wanted to integrate the art into it somehow, because I like that thought. Like I don't like defining what I am, but where I do find comfort is connecting with people, and that's that doesn't make me an introvert. That makes me comfortable. That makes me want to talk. That makes me not curl up in a ball when I'm talking to another introvert, and we're just both there standing and looking at each other, right? Because I've got some friends.
Yeah, it happens.
It's like
it's like pulling conversation out of hard work.
And I hate it. Like it like I'm screaming inside, right? So to be able to relate to in your craft of like how you get from A to B in your artistic process, or just in your process, like you like concrete. How do you do it?
Yeah,
that is so relatable, and food is the perfect medium to tell that story, and that's what we do here. Whether it's art on the wall, whether it's the plateware, the silverware, the flowers, what the music, whatever it is, that's the story, that's the support, that's the spotlight, that's the jumping off point of leading with others and finding inspiration in others. And it's such a fun, cool story because it is like been so fulfilling. You spend all your time in this kitchen, especially at, I hate saying this level because it sounds arrogant, pretentious, but like all you do is fucking work in the kitchen. Like all you do, 16 hours a day, fine dining, that's all you fucking do. It becomes very joyless in a lot of ways.
It's sterile sometimes, right? Yeah.
And to be able to like when we talk about why did I start doing this, it was that exchange, right? That I made something and I get to exchange it for happiness, or I get to exchange it for you being like emotion. Like you get to provide me with an emotion by something I've made, right? And doing this for over the years, like it started getting sterile. It's like, why am I doing this? Like this is like I'm not getting anything back from this anymore. So this kind of story we're telling, it's really been fulfilling because you get to meet, talk, interact, be inspired, not be thanked, but thank people all the fucking time. And I get to see it all the time here. And it's so cool, like to have an artist art on their wall and then tell their story and lead with them. And then when people like get it, they really get it, and they're so thankful for it. And they're not just thankful for the food, because I don't want to hear the compliment of the food. I want you to tell me this tasted good, because I just want to be like, that's not what I see here. Like that's not like the food didn't go out right tonight. Like that's not what I'm seeing here. Yeah. Like who gives a shit? Like at Esmé, it's my PR company will probably fucking kill me for saying this. Who gives a shit about the food? That's not what this is. Yeah. This is much more than that, and that's the goal, right? It's a story of that we're trying to tell about, others and how they go through their creative process and how you can relate to that. The fine dining world, it's like we're trying to do the opposite of what it is. Like, there's big ass windows in this place. There's tons of light.
Yeah.
We can't hide behind any dark room. Like, if the floor is dirty, it's because the lights are on in here.
Yeah.
You know, you go everywhere else. Next was a shoebox. There's no windows. This place is inviting. The service is inviting.
Yeah.
Right.
You see it from the street when I was walking up.
Yeah.
There was this hustle and bustle of things going on and people eating. You're like, fuck, man, that looks cool.
Yeah.
In there.
The only downfall of the big windows is sometimes there's a homeless guy who walks by and puts his ass on the window. But like we wanted the servers and the service to feel not pretentious. We want them to tell the story. I don't want the regurgitation of, oh, Jenner said this.
Yeah.
This is how he feels to it.
Yeah, right. Oh, the chef wants you to eat it. This is just like, fuck,
Yeah.
man, I don't give a fuck what the chef wants.
I want them to connect to it because then it's going to be more relatable if it's their story and how they work here. And, you know, that's the purpose. What the fuck were we talking about?
Esmé.
Oh.
The art. Relating the art to the food.
Yeah, and it's been very fulfilling to, meet these people, and it's been so like organic. Like one artist leads us to the next.
Yeah, correct.
The next artist leads us to the next.
That's how it always is.
We don't have a playbook.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing half of the time, and everyone has been so like open, and that's been fulfilling to meet these people, and build these relationships, tell their stories, and then watch the guests be like, I got it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's it in a nutshell. And oh yeah, we're talking about fine dining. I tell this story all the time. I got my buddy this reservation somewhere. I won't say the name. It was for his anniversary, and he's not rich, but he does very well for himself, right? But he doesn't come across that way. He's a blue collar guy. He owns a construction business and flips houses, and he builds restaurants. Got him a reservation, and they give him I don't have a lot of pull in the world, but it's another industry person getting a reservation, so I think they would have been slightly more nice to him. They just give him the iPad for the wine, and he's like, I don't know what this means. Like, can you help me?
Right.
Can you help me pick the wine? This is a special day for me. And they made him feel where he wasn't smart enough, learned enough. He didn't have a seat at the table. When the person serving him doesn't, like, if you want to talk about dollars, because that's how it felt like they were treating him, like he wasn't rich enough to be in the room. Right. But the person serving him didn't make more money than him. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, right? So that whole dynamic of that attitude is something that I knew I don't enjoy. And the funny part about it is, like, I was like, oh, how much money did you spend, right? He's like, dude, I spent like $3,000 on wine. And I'm like, and he's like, you know what's fucked up is if they would have treated me nice, it probably would have been 10. Yeah. And I was like, that's it. Right. That's it.
But that just goes to hospitality in general. Like, that place is missing it. They're missing. Yeah. That guy's never gonna fucking go back there. Nope. Nope. As opposed to, he could have had the night of his life. That could have been the restaurant he went to every Friday night once a month. Yeah. For whatever fucking reasons, just because he had a good time. Yeah.
And I knew that's what we wanted the space to be. So and you shouldn't have to be learned, schooled, or have a certain amount of money, or dress a certain way to have an emotion to food, a feeling to food. And I feel like the artwork is the same thing, right? So why not marry the two, right? I don't know. I know some things about art, but I don't know anything. You
know what you like. Yeah, like the same thing with wine. It's like, I know what I like. Yes. I don't know how to I don't know any words on here, but I like when it's full and robust and juicy, like, can you help me with that? Yeah, absolutely.
And you shouldn't feel dumb because of that. Right. And I think, and I don't like feeling like that. Like I told you, I don't like presenting myself unless I'm buttoned up, right? I don't like to do I'm not going to go horseback riding with you and I don't like to feel stupid, right? Which most people don't. Right. And so I didn't want people to come in here and feel like that, because I fucking don't like it and I hate it too, right? So that's the dynamic here, right? Like you can enjoy that art behind me and know nothing about it and look at it, and you can either like it or dislike it. And both are okay, and both are right. Yeah. And both, like, you can like the food in front of you. You can like the plate it's on. You can like that the table's made from the sand from Lake Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Or you cannot.
Right.
And those are both valid answers.
Or you can not even notice it, you know?
Yeah. And that's what kind of encompasses this whole place. It's hopefully we're telling that story.
Yeah. Where did you find your style?
I don't have one.
Yeah. But are you looking?
Every day.
Yeah. So what's that process like?
I like, we talked about not loving food, or liking food.
Mm-hmm.
My wife loves food. Like, she loves food. Like everything, every memory is related to food. There's a food memory for everything. I'm very, very jealous of that. I think I get jealous in that a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
Like, they have all these fond food memories of, I mean, I do too, but like.
Yeah, but you didn't grow up in a foodie household. I mean, you grew up a couple miles away from where I grew up, and an experience was my mom would bring home a bucket of chicken from Brown's Chicken or Sbarro at the mall.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm very jealous of that with a lot of people. I was introduced to some food early on, and I liked it. I never disliked things, but she's got this food memory, man, that is just so infectious.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll make you love it even if you don't.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's the story.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I don't know what my style is. Like, I love French food, and I think I love French foods because it's the most documented cooking in history, and you can look back and like see like a long line of progression of food of that cuisine, right?
Yeah.
And I think I like that. I like very defined things. This blank canvas is intimidating and scary. I don't like the idea of cook whatever you want.
It's hard. It's almost easier to cook inside of a box than to say you can do anything you want in the world. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know what the fuck I want to do. Or hey, you have to work under these confines. Yeah. Okay, great, I'll figure it out.
I think that's why Esmé is structured the way it is.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes there's food technique that I find interesting and things like that, and flavors that I find interesting that will lead the conversation of a dish, but a lot of the times it's not, and most of the time it's not. It's like, like I look at something and I'm just intrigued on how and why things look the way they look and where they've come from. And I think food is so relatable in that fashion. Like, you can manipulate something, or you cannot, or you can serve it, as is, and anywhere in between those two gamuts. It's so tactile in the processes of fabrication and it breaking down and reassembling. It's like everything else in the world, and it's like art. Where in the matter of like you could do anything, and to be able to be like, that is so cool, and I'm intrigued on like where you came from and why. Like, did you magically pull this out of your ass? Right. Did you what is your fucking brain thinking? To draw this, like. And it's funny too, because people say, well, what you do is art, and I'm like, it's not to me. And I've had this conversation with artists who I deem artists, like people who make the fucking art to put on the wall, or like the musician or whatever it is, like what I deem as art, and they it's comforting to hear them say the same thing. And it's
they
not
don't
because,
think they're artists.
No, and it's not because I want to be an artist. I don't. It's just comforting to have someone have the same feeling as you, right? Because I don't look at the food as art. I'm a very hammer and nails kind of guy, and as I said, this has been a learned creative process. Katrina would always be like, "You need to learn how to talk to people, and you can learn how to be creative because I've seen you do it, and you're good at it." And I'm like, "Should give me fucking tasks. Like, you need to go to talk to one guest tonight." I'm like, "I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I don't want to talk to you now." Right. I don't want to talk to you. You're giving me homework about work. You're giving me homework. But no, that has been a crazy roller coaster of things. So like to define, I have a hard time defining like what my style is. It's daunting. It's like it's scary. Like I feel like I don't ever want to hang my hat on anything.
Be pigeonholed.
Yeah. Like I'm not gonna hang my hat on cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
I go cook cheeseburgers, and I will tell you I'm gonna cook a good cheeseburger, and I'll put it against anyone else's cheeseburger because That's the kind of confidence and work ethic I'm going to bring to it, but I don't want to just put it there.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, Jenner, it's amazing sitting down with you. Thanks for taking time out of your day.
Hopefully I didn't talk your ear off.
No, it was fucking great, man.
Cool.
It's amazing to talk to somebody like you that has the same insecurities, the same problems, the same thought process, and it's just kind of comforting to know that the things that I think about on a day-to-day, I'm not alone with somebody that's accomplished like yourself.
Yeah.
And you're starting out, you have a new business, you have a new restaurant, you're still trying to figure it out every day. And I'm moving into that the next couple months, and it was a great conversation. It's very comforting to know that you're just as fucked up as I am.
Yeah, that's what this industry needs more of.
I agree.
Yeah,
Thanks,
great talking to you, brother.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
right on.
Thanks.